Yo, you are listening to the Money Matters Podcast with me, Jack Mallers, and my friend here, Dylan Lieteau. This podcast is brought to you. Look at my hand. My hands are all over the place. This podcast is brought to you by nobody. We self-produce this podcast. We don't plan on having any sponsors. That's not what this is about. We pay and produce and operate this podcast ourselves. No one else involved. So, if you do want to support us, if you do like our conversation, our work ethic, what we try and represent for the world, what you can do is your Bitcoin stuff on Strike. It's the company we created. What we do is Bitcoin stuff. You could buy Bitcoin. You could sell Bitcoin. You can move Bitcoin. You could store Bitcoin. You could use Bitcoin for payments. You could do now Bitcoin in 70 markets we support. We've got another announcement that I'll talk about in a second that's really exciting. So if you want to support Dylan and I, you should download Strike, give it a try. But this is a podcast that is about the message, not the money. Well, the money to the topic, not getting paid by, body armor. Anyway, also real quick, I'm new to the podcasting game. This is my first podcast I've ever done. And so I hear you guys loud and clear on the feedback. I got this fucking microphone literally on my chin. Let me go sideways so you guys can see. I'm holding this thing touching my chin because I know you guys have said, you guys were saying I was too quiet and you're making fun of my hair. As soon as the internet says I'm starting to look like Sam Bankman-Fried, you guys are mean to me all the time, and I love it. I love it. And no, I do. I think it's great. Free market, give me criticism. It's the only way I'll get better until you start calling me, a fat, drug-addicted vegan. That you cross the line. So I went in, I got a haircut. I got this fucking mic on my chin, and I'm ready to record a podcast. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. Super Bowl Sunday.
Super Bowl Sunday?
Big Sunday.
Well, they're going to hear this on Super Bowl Monday, but yes, we are recording this a few hours before the Super Bowl. So who are you cheering for? Well, you're watching at my house, right?
I got Tails and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's where
Tails?
Yeah, coin toss. Always got to place a coin toss bet.
Gambling is such a shitcoin thing to do. You should take that money you're going to gamble. You should buy yourself some Bitcoin.
I think I'm hoping that Tails hits and I can buy even more Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a very low time preference fiat thing for you to say.
I'm just a big coin toss guy. But yeah, Taylor Swift just won a Grammy. I think Travis Kelce's going to drop his nuts on San Francisco. That's my bet. What about you?
Same. So you know this already, but one of my childhood close friends is friends with Travis Kelce for a long time, many years. Excuse me. Having a White Claw just burped. So many years, friends with Travis Kelce. And they go to the game. They go to, when Chicago plays Kansas City, they go to the game. And so this year, they're all sitting, childhood buddies of mine I've known for 25 years, 20 years. And they're sitting in Travis's box for the Chicago Bears, where I'm from, where my buddies are from, or at the Kansas City Chiefs. And I get a push notification on my phone that Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce and at the game. And I immediately text my buddies. I say, are you guys sitting next to Taylor Swift? And they go, yeah. And they send me a picture back of them just hanging out with T Swift. And, they say she's super fucking cool and she's a great time and Trav and her are super happy. But for that reason, the Bears fucking suck. And so I've always been a Chiefs fan come playoff time because we're never in the playoffs. And all of my childhood buddies are Travis Kelce. That's their good friend. And then on top of that, I would love an opportunity to orange pill Taylor Swift. So I'm very hopeful. Yeah, I hope Trav comes out and puts up 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, wins Super Bowl MVP, him and Taylor get married. Somehow I get invited to the wedding and I orange pill her. That's the plan? That's my Super Bowl prediction. Yes.
Wow.
You got to dream. You got to start somewhere.
It's a big dream. I hope it comes true. Also, I just hate San Francisco, like in general, like as a city.
Yeah, well, a lot of
football team. It really doesn't matter.
Our employees live there, and we went and visited for an offsite, and it is this dangerous, scary place. Like sun goes down, get inside.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about a shit coin, like San Francisco.
San Francisco's a shit coin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
that's true. Very fiat. Okay, before we get into the agenda that you have, real quick, guys. So again, we're recording this on Sunday, but you'll get it on Monday. When do we do this? 5 Eastern?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll get it Monday at 5 Eastern. By that time, you will have hopefully read a blog post I wrote or watched a video I recorded about Strike's update to our fees. So traditionally, Strike, the company I founded that I'm the CEO of, and we move Bitcoin around the world. We let you buy, sell Bitcoin, do all this Bitcoin shit. And we're a business. We pay the bills. I pay to have this office. I paid for this microphone, right? In order to afford paying the bills and continually building Bitcoin products for humanity all over the world for hopefully centuries to come, we got to make money. How did we used to make money before what I'm about to explain? It's what's called a spread. A spread is, in finance, the difference between, so in Bitcoin, it's the difference between the spot price and the price we sell at. So if Bitcoin is $10, we're getting it for $10, I'm selling it to you for $11, I'm making $1, right? So you could think the difference in the price is what's called the spread. Our spread, so this is the way it's always been. Also, I've talked about this on this podcast before. Strike, I founded it with a lot of payments in mind. We've evolved as being one of the best Bitcoin companies just at anything Bitcoin in the world. But we had built spread monetization ever since day one. It was part of my initial plan, and it was always the way we monetized. I published a blog post in July 2021 where I talked about exactly this, is that we're never going to charge an upfront fee. There will be a spread. Our spreads over the years have ranged anywhere between 0.1% to maybe a little over 1%. And I'll explain, because there's so many variables. It depends the size of the order, if there's market volatility, the type of use case. Are you sending a remittance payment using Bitcoin technology? Are you buying $1 million worth? Or are you buying $1 worth? What feeds are we getting from our partners? Is FTX collapsing? There's all sorts of things that go into that, but that was kind of the range. And I would say, as of this last week, I went and took an average, and what you would say is like the typical quote. So you're not doing anything outlandish, you're not doing anything special. What was like the spread around? It was around 0.9%. It was 0.1 of that we were getting from partners, so market makers we source pricing from. I got to buy Bitcoin from someone to give it to you. And then the other 0.8, so about 80 basis points, was for us as a company to pay for the bills and continue to support you. And that is the history. That's how we monetized. You guys have told me over the years you don't fucking like it. Listen, you were going to be a payments company. We still are, but now you're, do everything Bitcoin, do it globally, do it well. I want fees. I don't like spreads. I don't totally understand them. It's hard for me to understand what the fee is. The best tweets is, I just don't like buying Bitcoin at a slightly higher price. I'm happy to pay the fee. I just want it at a lower price so that when it goes up, I could be like, let's fucking go. Number go up. And so we've heard that feedback, and we've now changed, which you will see, from those spreads to fees. So now, instead of having a spread on Strike, you will get a fee. Is it more expensive? No, it is not. In fact, not only did we change from spread to fees, but the fee goes down the more volume you do in a month. And so when we got all this feedback, and we're like, all right, as a team, we're like, shit, people do not like spreads. They just don't fuck with them. Whatever. It's not even worth explaining all the user research we went through and stuff. Whatever. Our customers, which I listen to and I care deeply about, don't like it. And I have no problem saying like, shit, I was maybe wrong, or I should have done this differently. No problem. We're forever iterating for Bitcoin and for our customers. And when we sat down to say, well, what's the best pricing we could give Bitcoiners? We thought, one, obviously fees. We want to lean into transparency. We want to be super upfront. That was the big feedback, be as transparent as we can for you guys. And then also to tier the fees lower, the more a Bitcoiner does Bitcoin. What we've seen in customer activity is you get orange pilled, maybe you download Coinbase or something, then you get introduced to Strike, a Bitcoin-only company that has free on-chain withdrawals, Lightning Network wallets, global access, cross-border payments. You get introduced to all this stuff. Then maybe you turn on a $10 DCA, and then before you know it, 100% of your paycheck and you're living on Bitcoin. And we wanted to kind of follow that journey with you. So the way the fees work is no spreads outside of whatever we get from the market maker. You'll get a fee, and that fee is based on how much volume you do on Strike in the month. So the more you Bitcoin with Strike, the cheaper the fee. That's basically what it is. And so I post some charts in the blog. You should take a look. We're very competitive in the market, In fact, according to our analysis, and again, this is not, people do free DCAs, people do paychecks, it's not a competition in this way. I'm not trying to put anyone down, but we've worked really hard to be extremely competitive as we can be. We want to give you the most sats that we could possibly give you, and everyone would do it if it were easy, right? So we're super proud of that, and we uniquely stair-step our volume down the more you Bitcoin with us, which I think is everyone's Bitcoin journey. The more of a Bitcoiner you become, the more valuable we become as a company to you. Whew, breath. But I wanted to acknowledge that on the podcast because we got blog and tweets and emails, and our customer support team is ready to answer any questions. We're not more expensive. This isn't an outrageous change, but pricing is sensitive. We're just listening to your feedback. Fuck the spreads. We're going to do fees, and the way we do them, actually, we probably might lose a little bit of money because our bigger customers will get now like significantly discounted prices. But I think it's important. I really value it, and I want people to do their Bitcoin shit with us.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for tiered pricing, and I think it actually is timed really well and segues into the first topic that I want to talk to you about today, which is price action. It's that time of the month. It's that time of the week. It's that time. Starting to get text. Should I sell it all? Is it too late to buy? We're hovering around, 48,000 at the moment? What do we have exactly?
2,071 sats is $1. I actually don't know that's what I got on my home screen. 48.2.
48.2. I'm hearing everything about why the price is moving. In reality, I'm not sure anyone exactly knows why at any given time Bitcoin's moving in price, but I'm hearing the halving. I'm hearing ETF inflows. What do you think? What do you think's contributing to this price action right now?
I think more people want to buy Bitcoin than they want to sell it.
That is how an asset goes up in price. Yeah, that makes sense.
Supply demand.
Yeah.
Yes. More people want to acquire Bitcoin than there are people that have Bitcoin that want to get rid of it. In that market dynamic known as supply demand, there's more demand than there is supply willing to sell, results in a higher price. That's what I think is going on. What do you think?
Simple enough, ABC. I mean, the ETF inflow volume is pretty amazing to see and pretty amazing to watch. I know a lot of people were really quick to cast stones and, this is not as big of a deal as we thought it was going to be. And I think you mentioned earlier, ETFs own, $1 million? $1 million?
I think they have 1 million Bitcoin under management at this point.
That's insane.
There's 9 of them. Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's pretty simple. It doesn't mean it's not important and cool and amazing, but it's not like an impossible concept to understand. I got my chin like trying really hard to talk into this mic. The concept's pretty simple. I think on-ramps, so any new on-ramp into Bitcoin, doesn't matter in the bear markets because people aren't buying on net. But in the bull markets, they're everything because they contribute to price discovery. Really what, as society, we're trying to understand is how valuable is this thing? How many of us around the world think of it and consider it as money? And you can follow its progression by, what's the one metric that will tell you that? The price. The price will tell you that. The price signifies it's a live index of how many human beings actively consider Bitcoin money. And is that just in their head? How do I know they consider it money? No, because they're taking their monetary energy, their human capital, what they contribute to this world, and they're exchanging it for this one money. They could use a lot of monies. There's RuneScape coins, there's Call of Duty tickets, there's the US dollar, there's Bitcoin.
They're called points.
Points. There's more and more people that take their monetary energy and they put it into this one and they put it into Bitcoin. And so when you have a new on-ramp, it greatly contributes to price discovery because now people have access to choosing this one, to choosing Bitcoin. So, the world goes through credit cycles. Credit cycles kind of weirdly follow the halvings a little bit, but these credit cycles of, the Fed balance sheet contracts and then the Fed balance sheet greatly expands and all of a sudden there's more fiat just everywhere. And so, not exactly, but relatively speaking, there's more fiat that is competing for, generally the same amount of goods. What goods do you want to own? And now there's a new sector of the world that can pick this one, Bitcoin. That's great. And so what's my opinion on the ETFs? Yeah, it's probably the equivalent of in 2014 when Coinbase launched wire transfers. You're like, wow, people can buy from wiring from Chase instead of just their PayPal account. So now the price discovery is going to be interesting because instead of buying $10 at a time, you could buy $1 million at a time. And so it just enhances and advances price discovery in a bull market. And so we'll see. But I don't know. To me, it means it's working. To me, it means there's appetite. To me, it means Bitcoin is relatively understood. I think every single market cycle, people care about something slightly different about Bitcoin. Bitcoin can't change. So it's never changed. It's not as if it was trying to be a payments product and then it, at a board meeting pivoted to being gold 2.0. Right. It's never changed. It's impossible for it to change. So I think human perception and how we value it and what we care about changes. And so I think Bitcoin in this market cycle is very well understood as a fixed supply scarcity in the backdrop of a lot of monetary stimulus and a very scary bond market and underwater banks. So to me, it signals that narrative is resonating, Bitcoin is well understood, and that the ETFs are working. They got approved, the technology works, Fidelity integrated it correctly. I don't know if any of that made sense. That's my net opinion.
What do you think about the sentiment at the moment? I was reading a tweet and it seemed to suggest that Bitcoin sentiment is at or hovering around sort of bear market levels post ETF. It sort of did this boom and bust, and I think it's an interesting point to draw out. I mean, Bitcoin Twitter typically is pretty positive signal in terms of I would say what people care about and what's happening in the space, but you're seeing price action move. You're seeing sentiment sort of kind of stay flat. Does it matter?
No. But, I mean, are you implying that Bitcoin Twitter is an accurate depictor of sentiment?
I mean, I think at one point it around Bitcoin, I would say it was. I think that what I was attempting to get at is we're kind of seeing that like bifurcate a little bit.
I guess, bro. I mean, listen, like
I also live in that echo chamber.
Yeah,
right?
I do too. We're gonna fucking post this on Bitcoin Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to diss Bitcoin Twitter. I love Bitcoin Twitter, but I mean, okay, we all have bad sentiment. Russia comes out tomorrow and says, "Oh, you're gonna kick us off the dollar? Well, we're buying $10 trillion worth of Bitcoin, and we want to be the biggest miner." Oh, okay, fuck your sentiment. It's impossible to I don't know. How euphoric is everybody? Also, we're not at even all-time highs yet.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a bull market? Is this a bull market? No, clearly not. Bitcoin's traded higher. So, I don't know. A lot of this stuff, and I know the halving's a topic as well. A lot of this stuff to me, there's a lot of kindergarten, grade school takes. Bitcoin bleeds in and out of so many different topics. It's, the what is the Powerpuff Girls, the sugar, spice, and everything nice concoction that makes up Bitcoin. There's game theory. There's like this, libertarian almost, government. Too much government is bad crowd. There's math. There's cryptography. There's finance. There's monetary theory. And so, and no one's an expert in all of them. And so I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes you find yourself making expert level claims and carrying expert level conviction in areas that you don't fully understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for people that understand markets, no, I don't look to Twitter to get market sentiment. I look at price and the order book. Yeah, we're sitting here in downtown Chicago. The Chicago Board of Trade building is right around the corner. Nobody at the Board of Trade is like, well, price is trading bullish. The order book, God, there's a lot of bids in there. But, did you see what BTC George tweeted? No one who understands markets.
You don't think that factors into their analysis?
No. But if you're like a diehard libertarian that's been here for a while, maybe you have the opinion that markets follow the sentiment of your group chat. I don't know. No, I don't. Markets have been markets long before Bitcoin. I don't think Twitter matters.
I do think one correlated point is obviously as the price approaches or gets to and then eventually passes all-time high, you see sentiment correlated with that. People are fucking stoked on it. As soon as you hit all-time high, whatever pool of people have bought Bitcoin previously to that exact dollar amount are in the money. And so for me, I feel like I feel like the slingshot's being pulled back. We're at 70% of all-time high. Sentiment is pretty low or relatively flat. You're still seeing good price action, in my opinion. And you asked me earlier, what do I think is going on? I think we're starting to see early-ish indicators of one of my favorite debates in Bitcoin, but the halving. Mm-hmm. Early indicators, is it priced in? Is it not priced in? But do you think as we approach the halving, that's having any impact or?
My dad always taught me a unique take on the halving is it's not either priced in or not priced in, and he's the best. He said that's a really idiotic way to think about it.
It's idiotic to say it is priced in or it's not priced in?
Yeah, I just think it's the wrong way to think about it. The way I also think of it this way, but I want to give him credit, is it's an inventory reduction. It's a reduction in the inventory. So, let's take a step back. What does that mean? First of all, the inventory in finance, commodity production is in reference to the raw good being produced. So the wheat, the grain, the corn, the soybean. And then a reduction in inventory is there's like less on the shelves, right? And so, he always famously told me, so my dad, I think his first job ever was working the pits here in the Chicago markets in 1977. And he's always told me, never in his life has he heard of a commodity having an inventory reduction of 50% overnight. And he's always told me the story that the biggest inventory reduction he's ever seen was the 88 drought. So in America, there was an agricultural drought which caused an inventory reduction in agriculture commodities like corn and grain and wheat. And he said the reduction was 20%. And markets were fucking freaking out. And they're like, oh my God, farmers can't produce as much agriculture commodities that we consume. And how is the market going to price this? And the price of these agriculture commodities doubled, he said, on a 20% inventory reduction. And so but the point that he's trying to make is, my grandfather, I guess now referencing my family a lot, has always kind of had the saying, well, he's long gone, but I was told he had the saying, sell in May and go away. Because, you lay the crops in the spring, and May is when the market has to price anything that could happen. Is it going to be a drought? Is there going to be a rainstorm? Is there going to be a war? And the point is trying to speculate on the inventory of an asset is for agriculture commodities is what they're all referencing, is impossible. Was traditionally very difficult to do. And when you had a drastic reduction, what it does is it makes price discovery to the upside a lot more difficult. If all of a sudden you have 20% less corn, you're effectively asking the market, well, now not everyone is going to get their corn. Are you willing to substitute your corn for something else? Or are you willing to pay higher for corn? And if demand remains the same, but there's less of an inventory to sell, then the growth is realized not in the more corn that's going to be produced, but the price of the corn. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, in my opinion, and in my family's opinion, the way to think about Bitcoin halvings is, Bitcoin's priced against its 21 million supply cap. It's not priced against, what's the active distribution, 19.2 million. No. There's only 21 million. But what this does is it reduces the inventory available for sale by 50%.
Mm.
And, for what I was saying, sell in May and go away, because my grandfather was alluding to just how hard it is to predict what any inventory reduction would be in agriculture commodities. I give this example to reference against Bitcoin. It's true, Bitcoin's is programmed. So it is true that you can try and price this in, or you know it's coming, right? Like, I really wish my grandfather was alive to see Bitcoin. I think he'd love it. But he's never seen anything like this. Nobody has.
Right.
Sell in May and go away is unless you want to be part of what's the inventory reduction or what's the carryover, which is 8% of the inventory of corn didn't get sold. So are farmers going to produce 8% less? How are they thinking about it? This is all the futures markets built here in Chicago. So the fact that Bitcoin has it programmed in is innovative. No one's ever seen anything like it. The fact that it's 50%, in the 88 drought, 20% doubled the price. 50% is fucking insane.
Right.
And it's not a drought. It's not because the wind is going to, ruin the crop or because it's a rainstorm. You're never going to find any more. So you're never going to find any more. It's not like a one-off thing. It's programmed in. So anyway, I like to think of it as it's a reduction in the inventory. So all that means is that if there is new demand, let's say Powell does need to bail out the banks. Let's say Russia does adopt Bitcoin. Let's say Amazon does take it as a corporate treasury. Price discovery to the upside is a lot more violent. There's not as much, what the Chicago traders call as padding, right? If I have 10 billion Yeezy shoes, I theoretically have enough to give to everyone on the planet. If I only have 10, then price discovery to the upside is a lot more violent because, God forbid, there's 11 people that want Yeezys. Well, now we're going to see how much they're really worth.
Mm-hmm.
How much are you really willing to pay to get one? And is there a noble substitute? If you say, well, fuck, there's not enough Yeezys for everyone, so I'm cool wearing Adidas. So right, there's an inventory reduction in Bitcoin. So God forbid they print a lot of fiat, or Bitcoin, the technology, changes the world in some material way. We get another El Salvador, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you'll see price discovery insanely to the upside, and the market will be tested. Is there a second best, right? Is it just as good to hold Ethereum?
Right.
Will gold do me solid? Now, historically, the answer has been no. Bitcoin last year clocked 160%. Nothing came close, right? And people were willing to pay more to own it than not. So, the price discovery, anyway. So there's long rant, a little all over the place, but the takeaway for me is you can't price it in or not price it in. All it's doing is taking inventory off the shelf. So if you have an event that increases demand shock, there's less padding. So for someone to say it's absolutely priced in, or no, it's not priced in at all, it's like, what are you guys talking about? Is all that so if Biden were to come out and say World War III starts tomorrow, that's not priced in either.
Right.
Like Bitcoin will go up, surely, but if there's half the inventory, it will go up more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it just makes price discovery to the upside more violent.
There's one, I think that makes a lot of sense. There's one point that I guess I just want to understand better. In the corn example, I don't think that was an outcome one could reliably or consistently validate was going to happen. It was a supply shock in the true sense that it was a shock, I think, to the rest of the people speculating on the asset, to the rest of the world consuming the asset, and likely to the farmers producing the asset. I mean, droughts are hard to predict, especially in the fucking 80s, right?
Yeah.
But Bitcoin has a fixed issuance, a reliable fixed issuance that you can look to and point to at with a certain sense of fidelity at a certain point in time and say, this is when that inventory shock, for example, is going to happen. So I guess rephrase a different way, when does speculation on that start? Has it already? Does it start the day after? Does it start the night before?
Yeah. Well, so to your point, corn, nobody calls the 88 drought a supply reduction. It's not, because then the wind goes away, the farmers get back out there, and they start producing more corn.
Right.
In the same way that when people call Bitcoin's having a supply reduction, it's incorrect. The supply is 21 million. The market prices it as such. They're not all out there in the world yet, according to Bitcoin's monetary policy, but the world says there's only 21 million of these things. How much of them do I have? That's it. And so you're right. And so I love that. What everyone called it is an inventory reduction, which means if demand remains the same or for whatever reason goes up a lot, like Chipotle comes out with a corn burrito, I don't know, right? Who knows? Then the price discovery is going to be more violent because there's just less padding. So that's it, is that like there's not enough on the shelf. So if everyone comes running in, I want one, there's not enough padding for me to then have to tell everyone, well, who's the highest bidder? Because, and that's the thing about Bitcoin, is I don't even think Bitcoin's a commodity. I think it's a scarcity. Commodity like gold theoretically find infinite amounts. Scarcity, there's none left. For something that's a scarcity, its growth is not realized in new supply. Its growth is realized in its price. Right? Like, take, I don't know, what's another technology, consumer technology that you use?
Like an iPhone?
Yeah. Okay. If you, and this is actually hilarious enough, this is a Pierre Rochard example. If you, like, you and I won't buy 40 iPhones with the expectation that there's going to be a ton of demand for them that's going to drive the price of an iPhone. So I bought 40 iPhones, each for $1,000. So I spent $40,000 on iPhones, and iPhones are going to go from $1,000 to $10,000, and my $40,000 10x's to $400,000, and then I get to redistribute my iPhones and put a down payment on a house. The reason is because if there's enough demand for iPhones, Apple will just make more. So the growth in iPhones is realized in the growth of the supply. The same is for gold. The same is for corn. If enough people want it, you'll find a way to make more.
Right.
For a scarcity, which Bitcoin's the only monetary scarcity ever, everything else that you would think about putting your monetary energy into, you can find more of. For a scarcity, because you can't find any more, the growth has to be realized in the spot price. So you think about it like two axis. Like iPhone's growth this way. They're going to create more and more and more. If all 8 billion people wanted to do anything they could to own an iPhone, Apple would make 8 billion of them.
Yep.
If all 8 billion people wanted some access to Bitcoin, you can't find any more. So it's in the price. So it goes this way. So, I mean, inventory reduction. And so, yeah, I mean, you're speculating on a new technology. What we're saying is this technology will get further adopted. And your thesis, it's an entrepreneurial take. Your thesis could be, I think it's going to disrupt cross-border payments. I think it's going to disrupt the bond market. I think it's going to be a corporate balance sheet, whatever. I think it's going to alleviate the global south of their good riddance of the West, whatever. You think it's going to be adopted more. And what an inventory reduction does is when that more adoption comes, the price discovery to the upside is far more extreme and volatile. And think about like what that does too. You know, it's important. I was actually just on the phone with my dad before this recording. We were talking about the 88 drought, and he was like, you know, a lot of the market activity was really interesting because all of a sudden, if you needed corn or wheat to run your business, so let's say you run fucking bread burrito shop and you need these things.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you started to front load and buy a lot because the inventory was reduced, right? Because they were consuming these commodities, which is why these commodities aren't used as money. We've talked about this. Money is a market good that you don't consume.
Yep.
So this isn't a money. This is a market good for consumption. But what an inventory reduction does is it does change market behavior. Well, all of a sudden, if you say, well, usually I buy a little bit of corn a month. If you're like, well, inventory reduction, price is going up. What if price 10x's by the time I need my next batch? Why don't I just buy all my corn for the year now? It changes market behavior.
Yeah.
Now, Bitcoin isn't consumed. I can't put it in a burrito, which people are always like, it doesn't have any natural value. You moron. That's the point.
Yeah.
If I could eat it, it would be far less good at being a money than not. So thank God I can't even fucking like see it. Good, because I can't consume it. Perfect. But you don't see that as often. But let's say I had to put Bitcoin in Chipotle burritos. Coming up on the halving, you sure you don't want to buy your year's worth now? Because the price discovery to the upside might be a little more violent, and you start to see that. Like if you want to build a corporate treasury of 500 Bitcoins, you probably want to figure that out in the next 2 months. Because if you're going to say, no, I'll buy 50 a month for 10 months, okay, good luck, because the 50 in 10 months might be worth 4 times as much as the 50 now. And so it does change market dynamics, and because Bitcoin is money, the number go up has a cyclical effect to it. So, the number go up in corn does not have such a cyclical market effect. So Bitcoin's number go up means money equals good. The scarce supply in the monetary network is able to, hold and reserve the wealth and allow it to build up. That's a good thing, which attracts new entrants, which attracts a higher price, which attracts new entrants, which attracts a higher price, which is not true for the 88 drought.
Right.
Or else wheat would have fucking went to the moon. But eventually you reach an equilibrium where it's like, listen, man, I love burritos, but I'm cool eating a salad until the wind blows because I just
don't need wheat and everything.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
And so that's not true for Bitcoin. So, anyway, but I think of it as an inventory reduction, as, God forbid they print more money. Then we're going to really figure out how much Bitcoin's worth, and it's going to be violent. Like, my dad's, in markets his whole life, and he's like, I've never seen an inventory reduction of 50%.
Overnight.
It's egregious. Yeah. Or like the 88 drought, like put America in a tailspin of like, how are we going to eat? What's going on? The price of my groceries going up 5%. And that was 20%. So 50%. And, talk about how Satoshi designed the system. It's so genius. But why did he do that? Or she? Or they? Why did they do that? I don't know. Like, why not, 10% a year? Why not, like, it is such a gut-wrenching inventory reduction that sends such violent upside price discovery, which implies that there is demand, though.
Yeah.
So if everyone didn't give a shit about Bitcoin, didn't matter how much inventory is on the shelf, no one wants it.
Yeah, cut in half.
But you assume adoption continues, you do get these, like, okay, more people are out getting it. Woo! Because, yeah, like, if we went through 2023, we were up 160%. If we went through 2023 with a 50% inventory reduction, it wouldn't be 160%. But there's no mathematical equation. Would it have been 300%? Would it have been 3,000%? That's the point of price discovery. How much are you willing to pay to own this thing? And yeah, again, it's like, are you willing to substitute? Are you willing to have no corn in your burrito versus are you willing to own gold instead of Bitcoin?
Seems like almost like an intentional assault on an equilibrium. I feel like 4 years is enough time to become comfortable in some sense of consistency, and then it's like Mike Tyson just appeared.
Well, now
a wild Mike Tyson appeared and knocked you in the fucking shin.
Now I'm speculating. So I do think, because I'll log on to Twitter and I'll see people that are like, the halving's priced in or the halving's not priced in. And it's like, no. And I could be wrong.
Dude,
I'm
it's like they're almost defending their religion.
I'm like, guys.
They're so emphatic about it.
It's an inventory reduction. So the halving could happen and the price could remain the same. And it's going to break all your brains. And it's because we haven't gone through the demand shock that sends it into discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it might be halving, great. And then 2 months later, Biden comes out with the, War in Middle East fund or whatever. Then, 50% reduction in inventory. There's not a lot on the shelves anymore. Highest bidder wins. Who wants some? So I just like to think of it as a reduction in inventory. The closest thing I've heard is the drought in '88. But again, it's an inventory reduction for a scarce money. It's not an inventory reduction for an agriculture commodity that you eat in a burrito. So the more it goes up, the more valuable it is. Not the more it goes up, the more you're like, I'm cool eating a salad. So it's really an unheard of phenomenon. It's never seen before. But I think, pricing it in or not pricing it in is missing the concept. It's that the inventory is being mathematically reduced, which is also bizarre because it's not like a natural disaster. It's coming, but how do I price it in? Well, I'm also then speculating on an onslaught of demand, right? Anyway.
I think an interesting and not, I guess, as talked about side of the halving is in this scenario, commodity producer, the miner.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, I don't know the answer here, but for the supply shock of, 88? To me, there's like two schools of thought. One, there was a drought, there was less corn produced. Obviously, if you're a corn farmer, yield is everything, and so that's not good. But if the cost of what you're producing and what people are acquiring then skyrockets, does it net out in some way? And then transferring that sort of same metaphor to the commodity producer, the Bitcoin miner, how does this affect them?
They get less raw material. But it's very complicated because the raw material may go up more in value.
Right.
So, yeah, if I'm producing 50 lot of raw material that's each worth $1, so I'm $50 worth of production, and then all of a sudden I get to only produce 25, but now they're each worth $2, I'm netting at 50 in monetary value. So, yeah, it's a speculator's game.
I mean, they're almost playing the same game we are.
Yes, except, one can argue far more risk.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about the global price of energy. But what you're saying, it's a permissionless competition of who can source the cheapest energy in the world. And if you feel like you can and you feel like you're going to win, then it's a great business.
Mm-hmm.
You also are speculating on the asset. You know, I think today I think Bitcoin miners are effectively saying, I think Bitcoin's going to outgrow its halvings. I think it's going to more than double. Because the halvings are reducing my raw material production by half. I think the spot price will do me a solid and outcompete that.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't believe that, then you're right. It's just going to diminish, and it's a bad business.
Yep.
But then also, it's the reason I don't mine is because I don't have like a big mining business, is because I don't feel confident in my ability to outcompete humanity at finding good energy sources. It's not my forte. That's why I think it's just a very dangerous business, and you gotta use, quote unquote, leverage and a lot of tricks and tactics to remain alive, and you have to understand supply chain and buying the actual machine. This is not something that I think I would be better than 7.9 billion people at all. I
mean, that balance sheet management alone has got to be enough to put gray hairs on a fucking 15-year-old.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, and, I think it's very interesting that Satoshi chose mining as the way to fairly distribute Bitcoins. He didn't have to do that. He could have said, I'm gonna, I printed all 21 Bitcoins to myself, 21 million, and I'm gonna go hide them all throughout Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. And, so it's just very interesting to think through the halvings and the monetary policy and using mining as the way to distribute. But yeah, no, I mean, halvings are very disruptive for miners. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it far more competitive. There's no doubt about that. And to the point we were talking about earlier, okay, you have an inventory reduction. When, if ever, will the demand send this thing, eat through the padding and send this thing into price discovery? Because then, by the way, guys, so when you're talking about an inventory reduction, you know that there is certain inventory being produced by the miners that they theoretically need to sell to cover their cost to produce. If you chew through that, then the seller becomes the marketplace.
Yep.
So you're effectively asking me, like, hey, Jack, the market's chewed through the miner inventory, which just got reduced by 50%, which is this whole point. I want your Bitcoin. You're like, oh, you want mine? Hold on one second. What's the price? 48? Yeah, no chance. And it's like, okay, what about 58? Nope. 68? Nope. What about 150? Nope. In fact, most of my Bitcoins, I couldn't even sell if I wanted to.
Right.
You're in such deep cold storage.
Yep.
And so that's when you get into, that's why the inventory reduction sends you into this price discovery is, then you're effectively asking the marketplace to be the seller.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why Bitcoin operates in market cycles. So I actually think the way Satoshi designed Bitcoin, it couldn't have been big right away. I actually think by design, Bitcoin had to be small and adopt in a gradual way. And it has to adopt through these cycles, because what you do is you exhaust the inventory and you ask the market to be the seller. So the you, the me, my dad, the ETF people, and eventually they are. Eventually you buy a big house. Eventually you get a big empty closet, right? Eventually. And then you get a bear market, because eventually you hit that point. And then the sellers that are realizing, undeserved fiat gains. It's another thing my dad taught me is I call it undeserved fiat gains, because you're sitting on a hard money and they're just printing the utter fuck out of dollars, and your net worth just explodes.
Right.
And I think of it as undeserved because I didn't
You didn't do anything?
Do much. Yeah, which is not true. Owning Bitcoin's very difficult. Hodling's very difficult. Stomaching a lot of this stuff, having the entrepreneurial intuition to understand hard money, how to recognize it, really grasp Bitcoin, that's very difficult work. So the undeserved fiat gains is, I'm just kind of kidding. But realizing them, my dad always explained to me, is very important, because markets are cyclical and you gotta enhance the quality of your life in order to survive. If you're going to just if you're never going to enhance the quality of your life, the more that you're right, and you're going to ask yourself to stomach the bear markets and the downtrends, you're going to make yourself puke.
Right.
He's like, the value is always just staying in the game, the longer time in the market. And so if you're a Bitcoin hodler 50 years from now, is really the golden throne. And the way you afford yourself that is by realizing sometimes. And so you're basically asking the market to, like, when are you going to realize some of this? If nobody wanted to realize, that would imply that it wasn't fair distribution. A free market will always want to realize itself. If Satoshi had all the coins and he already had a yacht and a house and everything, then he'd be like, there's no price high enough. And that would imply, highly concentrated distribution. But Bitcoin's fairly distributed. So anyway, price discovery, up, 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 up. Eventually, the market becomes a seller because you want a house, you want to pay for your mother's cancer treatment. You want whatever you want a kid's college tuition, whatever that is. And then those sellers exhaust the buyers, and you enter a bear market, and then it rebuilds itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. On the point of undeserved fiat gains, it reminds me, I don't know if it's like a children's story or I don't know, a story that I read. But it's like this guy stumbles upon or maybe acquires massive trove of gold, and he just buries it in his backyard. And every now and then he goes and just looks at it, and then eventually becomes obsessed with it, and he just looks at it. And then he becomes one of the richest people in town because he has all this gold, and he just looks at it, and then he dies. And it calls into, like, philosophical questions of, like, was he actually rich? Is that actually wealth? I mean, I think to the point of acquiring wealth and undeserved fiat gains, it is important to, I think, live within that.
I'll tell
to some
you
degree.
A story that I don't think is, like, too personal. I'll leave out obvious details because, my life's my life and my family's my family. But
for some reason, I feel like this is going to be about me.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I was the guy that was like, never sell. I'm gonna eat,
ramen noodles and
cabbage
rice.
for the next 50 years, and I still very much am. But we went through a market cycle, and I, man of my word, did exactly like never, you can't get me to do shit. And my dad, at some point, and he just lays round numbers. There's not a lot of math to it. It's like, man, Bitcoin's high. And he got himself at one point his dream house. And market, boom, big, gut-wrenching. It's always, the bull markets are always more euphoric than you could dream, and the bear markets are always more painful than you could ever imagine.
Real pain.
Ever. You're like, oh, yeah, I'd bet Bitcoin goes down to 30, whatever. And all of a sudden it's at 15, and FTX is in court, and U.S. government's going to ban it, and you're oh, fuck, I need to go to therapy. And so, whatever, so I'm not going to name the market cycle or whatever. Again, not too many details, but I was, for the first time, really experiencing pain, like real, like, oh, my God. And I called my dad, and he answers FaceTime, and he's in his dream place. I'm like, what are you going to do about this price action and this guy did this? He's like, I don't care. I'm enjoying it from my dream. I'm living my dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to be able to make it to the other side because I took care of myself. And that was the first time I'd ever really understood, you got to realize some of these undeserved fiat gains, because the real game is making it 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a man really play. He's been trading his whole life. He's genius, my hero. But that was the first time I realized, like, well, fuck. It's an unsustainable lifestyle to push yourself to those limits. You're gonna just end up getting unhealthy or puking at the bottom. So yeah, I've watched him just masterfully trade Bitcoin over the last 11 years. And you see it in the market. You do. I mean, you see Bitcoin eventually Bitcoin, so you get 50% inventory reduction. So any new entrants are going to send this thing into a shockingly aggressive price discovery. And then it just goes like this. And eventually it hits that point where the existing holders realize undeserved, and it goes into the bear, which sets back adoption because bear markets freak people out and it gets really scary and stuff, and then you reload it. But I actually, I got a point for you. I'm entirely speculating. This conversations I have with my dad, actually. There's a lot of my dad reference in this, but, the halvings remind me of my dad because he's always explained these things to me so well. I actually think the way Satoshi designed Bitcoin is fascinating. I love talking about it because, you could have Bitcoin 1% of the supply every year for 21 million year, whatever, right? Why 50, then having 25? Why was the issuance so front-loaded in the beginning? And how does that impact how Bitcoin has been adopted? I think it's fascinating.
So why was it front-loaded in the beginning? Because in order to be a successful peer-to-peer system, distribution was required, and it's harder to distribute 2.5 of something than it is, call it 500,000 of something.
Yeah, so
distribution would be
Yeah,
my
I
answer.
agree. I think that you got to get it out. So, for example...
Oh, that was right?
No, I don't disagree with you. Yeah. I mean, there's no right answer. I'm speculating, but
do you share the same opinion?
Yeah, so I think that you got to get it out almost as fast as possible, as reasonably possible. I mean, the reason Bitcoin is because it's fair. It's equitable, it's fair. Everyone at any point could have found energy to try and create some. So everyone has access to energy. If Bitcoin is the currency of mankind, energy is the currency of Bitcoin. It's a currency that we all have access to. There's no governing rules. Like Google can't do anything about, harnessing energy. So it's very fair, very equitable. That's, the one priority for this thing. Very clear Satoshi wanted to be fair from the get-go. Money previously was not fair. Satoshi wanted to create fair money. Now, beyond that, you got to get it out. Because, I think about this often. Could Bitcoin have had a $100 trillion market cap on January 10th, like the first day? And I make the argument no. Because you would have had to fit 100 trillion market cap and however many Bitcoins are produced in a day in like 100 Bitcoins. But then when someone else produces 100 more, everyone already has gotten diluted by 50%.
Yeah.
Right? So it actually didn't have the capacity to hold that much wealth. And so that, you can say it takes time for adoption and, people didn't know about it yet. And that's all true. But I also don't think for the first few years it could even be worth $1 because it had to just get out. You needed actual distribution for many other people to have it, and enough distribution where every new block that adds dilution to like the Bitcoin cap table. So we're on the Bitcoin cap table of 21, right? But in the beginning, it was so concentrated. So you got to just get it out. So whatever, first 4 years, 50. And I don't even think in the first few years it could have carried any value for that reason. Like if the Saudi oil families did say like, oh yeah, that we're going to put 50 trillion into it, and I luckily win a block, then I just dilute their wealth by half, by 20%. It's just, it was too early.
Right.
The other thing, so you're coming to my place for the Super Bowl after this. Okay. If I send a text to our group buddies, our group chat, and I say, food distribution at the Super Bowl will go as follows. From 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., an equal distribution of food will be produced every 30 minutes. You'll say, okay, fair game. I'm going to show up when I want, and whenever I'm hungry, there will be food. If I say from 4 to 4:30, 85% of the food will be produced. After that, the rest of the 15% will be split up in tiny little nuggets. All of a sudden, you're like, well, I might want to get there early.
Dude, I'm lined up at 2 p.m.
Yeah, I
gotta get mine.
I gotta show up.
Yeah, I gotta.
And so it's also a way to incentivize early entrance, right? You get rewarded for doing it now. If it was the same amount of Bitcoin, the same amount of dilution all the way through, I could say, okay, I'll wait a little bit. I know my returns aren't going to be as high as the earlier guy, but it's not going to be that unevenly distributed. But yes, and the halvings and the 50%, I think Satoshi is trying to incite highly speculative nature because money has these network effects, as if he almost programmed in. You know, I love the Matt Odell quote, Bitcoin is programmed to go up forever, literally in the code. And almost like, yeah, what is a reasonable supply reduction? Well, you know, the 88 drought, 20%. Sheesh, that was aggressive. Okay, every 4 years, 50. Fuck you. And it's going to force them, poof. And that gives a new money, the network effects. You know, any network, you don't care if people love you or hate you. You just need people to know about you.
Yep.
That's it. You just need to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually the guy that's like, oh, fuck Bitcoin. We've seen this time and time again. Eventually something happens in his or her life, like his US dollars get sanctioned like Putin, or their favorite website, it's integrated for payments, or their buddy next door buys big penthouse because he got in early, whatever. Then you change your opinion and you're like, okay. So it's not about like having people love it or hate it. It's about having people know about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all a network wants, is the network effects of just I exist.
Peers.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, I think you got it. The early distribution in sense early entrance. It also slows down the adoption, because in the early days it couldn't have had the muscle to support a $10 trillion market cap. This gets into I know stock to flow is highly debated, whatever, but this gets into that theory, is that the more scarce Bitcoin gets. So if you're producing 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes and the stockpile of Bitcoins is 0, it's highly dilutive.
Yep.
If you're producing 5 Bitcoins every 10 minutes and there's already 20 million of them, no one's getting diluted, right? And so the more halvings you go through, the more Bitcoin actually has the skeleton to support a $10 trillion market cap. Mm-hmm. So these stock to flow people, what they're doing the math on, like, according to the stockpile and the new flows, really how high could this thing go before the dilution is too dilutive, according to whatever fucking theories. And they could be wrong or they could be right. But I just always found that so interesting. And so people were like, did you know Bitcoin wasn't worth anything for the first 2 years? It's like, well, if you logically think about it, it couldn't have been. Because if I were to put 10 grand into Bitcoin and then someone mined a block that wasn't me, I would have been so pissed.
Yeah, you'd been
like,
fucked.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
I just got diluted to death. Like Eduardo Saverin in the Facebook. You know, you seen the movie, The Social Network?
Yep.
And he's like, you diluted me. That would have been everyone in the early days of Bitcoin. So somehow it's an ingenious way for Satoshi. But then I do think that's why, everyone's like, well, if everyone understood Bitcoin, Bitcoin would be worth 30 trillion. It's like, I don't think we can actually support that yet.
Right.
I don't. And so it's
an interesting insight. I've never heard that.
At some point, this market cycle, existing holders will, and by the way, we're back at 50K. We've been at 50K before, but you're not seeing the same amount of sell pressure, because for the folks that hold Bitcoin for the long term, we've already seen this price. So if you wanted a house, if you wanted your college tuition for your kid, if you wanted a car, you already got it.
Yep.
And so we're back again. And so what's the new 50K? Is it 250K? Is it 500K? People will speculate. But eventually, Bitcoin will get dilutive enough and the holders will become sellers. And it goes through these cyclical cycles. But I actually think the distribution, the monetary policy, the halvings, it actually regulates how fast Bitcoin can be adopted. I don't think it could go 0 to 1 unless there's a catastrophic event where, the dollar's destroyed, World War III, we need something ASAP, and the U.S. is like, we're regulating Bitcoin, Bitcoin's the new money, then the dilution goes out the window, then it's panic. Barring that...
Yeah, good for Bitcoin holders, but something bad happened. Something bad happened.
Yeah, barring that, I do think you gotta take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you ever have unrealized gains, take care of yourself, make sure that you can weather any storm, and you just ride this almost programmed wave of... And so my price prediction over the next 2 years has been somewhere in the 100, 200K to $1 million. And because sometimes it really overshoots it if the demand shock is so fierce, and sometimes it undershoots it. But it's that range to me is all that Bitcoin can carry right now, which weirdly maps to gold. So I think it's $600,000 Bitcoin, something around that range, would give us the gold market cap today. Mm-hmm. And after this halving, the stock to flow, so the existing Bitcoins that exist and the flow of new ones that are created, that ratio will be better than gold.
For the first time.
Yeah, so I do think, again, it's like programmed into it. It's like the skeleton of Bitcoin will officially be able to support enough monetary energy as gold. And I think the market will find that. But as it's like thinking about the halvings and Satoshi and attracting early entrants, and how do you get this network to be realized? How do you create enough speculative volatility for people to know about you and create these cyclical, number go up, makes entrance go up, which makes number go up, which make entrance go up, which makes number go up. And then there's a natural distribution phase where all the people with the unrealized gains, you could either mine Bitcoin or you could be a buyer of people that need to realize gains, right? Yep. Which is buying the dip. Anyway.
Do you think this halving is any sense of uniqueness around it, bringing up the stock to flow point? I mean, it will be the first time Bitcoin is, in theory, the scarcest asset in the world.
No, I don't. Which kind of is back on the point I just said. I think Bitcoin's priced against 21 million of them. When I think about, I own a certain amount of Bitcoin on the cap table, I don't think, a block just got mined, I just got diluted. I don't think that. Mm-hmm. I know how much Bitcoin I have, and I don't think
anyone thinks. I mean, not anyone, but
exactly.
Most people don't.
Which is my point of, it's priced in, it's not priced in. No, you idiot. It's, we're pricing it against 21 million. That's, no one's ever actively, mapping out the price, of the okay, so there's 19 million supply, and then it's changing. No, it's I own X amount of Bitcoin out of 21 million. So I have X amount of Bitcoin's cap table if it were a company. Incredible, amazing, right? And that, and then, is this halving any different than the other? No. So there's more stockpile of coins. There's going to be less flow of distribution. So in theory, Bitcoin has more of a skeleton. It has more of a muscular build to support more market cap. Because it's less dilutive. And and eventually Bitcoin will have no dilution at all. The stock to flow infinity, and it will realize itself as whatever it's meant to be. And again, there may be a tipping point. You may get enough adoption where the dilution doesn't even fucking matter. Another quote from my dad. He always, when we trade Bitcoin together for, 10 years now, and we've been doing this. It's a whole family thing. My stepmom, the Bitcoin mom, my dad, and I just been a team of Bitcoiners since I was 18. And he's always had this rule: a third, a third, a third. A third of it's lost forever. A third of it cannot be accessed and sold. You're not getting Sailor's Bitcoin. Our family, I couldn't sell it if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And then the last third is up for grabs. It's going to be mined. It's owned by some guy that's in too much debt. Whatever. But a third, a third, a third. And so if you don't own Bitcoin yet, you are battling for the third. And eventually, maybe, it gets to that point where that last third is already being gobbled up and stuff, to where you reach a tipping scale where everything I'm saying doesn't matter. But no, I think it's a tale as old as time. Mm-hmm. It's You get a halving, you get an inventory reduction, something happens that sends it, so that something is COVID, and you chew through the padding, it sends into price discovery. Okay, when are holders going to be sellers? At what point? And you get your little bit of distribution, and now you run it back. And the coolest part, when people are like, well, when hypercycle, when supercycle, when hyper-Bitcoinization? And I always think, like, we're living in it.
Yeah, you said that. You said that to me like many times.
We're in it. It's like every low is higher. So like we're like, you're like, the market sentiment's like a bear market. I'm looking at my phone. Bitcoin's at like fucking 50K.
I know, it's confusing.
So yeah, every low is higher. Every high is higher. So we are in a super cycle. That's just what it feels like if you like really zoom in. You ever like see a picture of New York City and then you really zoom in, but it, like we're just living through the really zoomed in.
Right.
But we're in a super cycle. And what that tells me is every single cycle, more human beings around the world know what Bitcoin is and value it as money. They've taken all their contributions to they mow lawns, they found companies, they sell ice cream, whatever they do. And they take that and they put it into this thing. Because that means there's higher lows and higher highs. And it just goes through this thing. And it's a great free market way to distribute wealth, too. Because, this is the biggest wealth transfer in human history. So you're demonetizing everything. You're demonetizing fiat. You're demonetizing real estate. You're demonetizing all of these things that hold and carry wealth. And you're moving it into the better money. And then as people get so much wealth, because that, wealth is leaving the old and entering the new, and the new are the people that hold this thing, you're like, oh, fuck, I need to transfer some back into real estate because, like, I want to live a cooler life. I want to throw bigger parties. I want to, like, have rappers over or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're kind of seeing.
Sometimes I think I'm like, Bitcoin's at $50,000. Who gives a shit? And then sometimes I'm like, dude, Bitcoin's at $50,000. That's
right.
like nuts.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And that's why for me, like everyone knows how I live now. If I have liquid money, I put it all into Bitcoin. The only other assets I hold is real estate. Because again, like I could be homeless and just live only Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'm never going to make it through the bear markets. I'm never going to find love. I'm never going to build relationships.
Yeah.
And that means I'm not going to be a Bitcoiner in 50 years. And so I learned that from my father is it's not about, owning one more sat. It's about owning sats in 50 years. And so real estate, a company, so equity in a business. So you work hard to produce things for people. You give and produce value to this world. You own equity in that. And then sats. And there's a very simple mind frame. So whether it's 50 or whatever, as long as you're taking care of yourself, you got a roof over your head, you got a business that you could channel your energy through and work really hard for, everything else in sats. It's a very peaceful way to live your life. I don't think much about the price. It does crack me up. Like
feels like you and your dad have sort of reached this like almost Bitcoin nirvana. Right, because I don't know if this is too much information, but I acquired my first Bitcoin from you. Mm-hmm. We talked about it in 2016. I finally got, some signing bonus.
I told you about it in 2013. You listened in 2016.
That's true.
Important point, or else I'd be a dick. That's true. You've been in Bitcoin 11 years. You didn't tell your buddy? No, I did. He just didn't listen.
That's true. Bitcoin in 2013 was we'll table that for another discussion, but it had a different use case.
Yeah.
as far as I understand. But I came around to it in 2016, and I remember it so vividly. I mean, I was sending you screenshot after screenshot after screenshot. Like, dude, do I sell it? Do I buy more? Like, what the fuck's going on? You're like, it was like moving $8. You know, like it was the least big deal of all time, and it seems like just the longer that you're in it, the more that you understand it, the more cycles that you endure, the less the price from a day-to-day perspective matters.
Well, that's true. But I think Bitcoin's way simpler than people give it credit for. I think fiat has made the world so noisy. Like the only way to justify fiat is never-ending complexity that results in like needing to print money. Like fiat and shitcoins always, like whether you're reading a Vitalik Buterin tweet storm or you're watching a Jerome Powell press conference, it's always like, listen, you could never understand. So right? Because Vitalik's like, the quantum leap in 3000 and Ethereum's roll up twisting loop-a-doop. Ethereum 2.0. You're like, oh, what? Oh, okay, I could never, I'm never going to be as smart as that guy, right? And Jerome Powell, too, is like, there's a very artistic balance between inflation and the economy, and so I'm going to put it at this amount of points. You're like, oh, thank God that guy controls the money for planet Earth, because I could never understand. And it gives you this impression that you're inferior to other people and that you're a pleb, and inflation's inflation. I got to work harder, or who needs a house anyway? I love living in a 400 square foot condo. Like, right? And you got to snap out of that, because these people are full of shit. And Bitcoin's very, very fucking simple. So think about market cycles. The first market cycle you go through, if I buy a lot of Bitcoin at $100, and then you go through a market cycle where it hits, 1,200 and then goes all the way back down to 200, I'm puking. I'm like, fuck, I could have had a life-changing this and that, and I ruined it and everything. And then it goes from 200 to 20,000, okay? Then it crashes to 3,000. You've matured. Your average entry now, as you average yourself up because you continue to stack, is $500-$600. Bitcoin's low was 3,000, right? Because then I was talking to my stepmother. I just walked over here and talking to my parents. So excuse me for the family, but I was talking to my stepmom, and it was like, everyone. There's always market entrants that are a cycle ahead of you and a cycle behind you. There's always someone where this is their first cycle, and so this is their first, 10x that they're ever going to experience, and they're going to need, like the equivalent of like cover your kids' college tuition for my parents may have been 10 years ago. But there's someone who's experiencing that now. And for there are holders of Bitcoin that are, 4 years ahead of where my family is, right? And so it's like,
yeah.
So, but it's just so logical, where eventually what Bitcoin will do is it will exhaust its wealth distribution. All Bitcoin holders will have a house they like, will have an education that they appreciate. And you're just left with, what's the best money? Bitcoin. And that is perfectly distributed new monetary system, right? And so some people have entered that. They've got enough yachts, they've partied enough, they've taken enough vacation, they have enough homes, and they just have what they have, and then they have Bitcoin. And that's like the end of the road of being a Bitcoiner. And then there are other people that are just getting started, and that eventually Bitcoin will get them a home, and eventually Bitcoin will get them the car that they want.
Right.
And then once everyone can afford a home, like Bitcoin will make housing affordable, because the guy that has a lot of money has 10 houses. The guy that lives paycheck to paycheck can't afford a house. So once Bitcoin's demonetized everything, and everyone has what they need, and you're just left with the life you love and Bitcoin, then it's over. But yes, to your point, like you live through a cycle or two, then like you've already realized that dream thing. You've already gotten the bracelet, the engagement ring, whatever. And the new low used to be your high. And it matures you too, by the way. But it's just
you almost just become like numb to it all.
Yeah, but it's just so logical. Like I really do think the world is told that they're inferior. Like, I'm a chess player, and I hate chess player and programmer. Well, now I'm a CEO. I don't get to write code anymore, but I used to play chess and code. And my least favorite thing is when people would say, and they still do, like, oh, you just have a unique brain. You're just born that way. My brain doesn't work like that. And it's just such a load of shit. Like, I dropped out of school. My ACT score as a kid was like 5. I was a terrible student. It's not
Spelled Jack wrong.
It's not about. I was such a bad student. My dad was super concerned about, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, but it's this idea that people are like, oh no, I just wasn't born that way. My brain doesn't work that way. Like, yeah, Jerome Powell understands how economies work, not me. Vitalik Buterin gets rolling up in whatever. And it's just
he knows crypto. I don't.
Yeah, I hate that because it's just a disease that humanity has to rid itself of. Why does Bitcoin work the way it works? Just trust yourself for a second and think about it. It just relax. It's very logical. Why did Satoshi do early a bulk of the distribution early? Why does Bitcoin accrue value over time? Why are halvings not priced in and priced in? It's neither. It's just a reduction in the inventory. It's all very logical things. I really do. It does bother me. Like a lot of our buddies are like, dude, listen, I'm an econ major, man. I don't have the brain you have. Like, yeah, trust me, you do. You do. You just told you don't. You do. Everyone can work hard and be curious. It's just like, it really bothers me. So I don't know. It's super logical. Like Bitcoin cycles seem pretty logical, right? And the longer that you hold Bitcoin, then the more the price doesn't matter.
I feel like that was I feel like that's a good place to wrap this episode and
Q&A?
Jump into Q&A.
Yeah, I gotta get booze for my house. I gotta host the Super Bowl from the closet.
Yeah, true. We both have some shit to take care of.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Huge fan of this guy. He's an Honest Strike user. I think an Honest Strike critic too, which we value immensely. But you'll recognize the username as soon as I say it. But user at JW Weatherman asked, how much longer will it take for the SEC to kill shitcoins, and what will the mechanism be? Lawsuits against exchanges that result in delisting, this new 121 guidance, or whatever that defines broker-dealers better?
First of all, I love JW. I'm in like a group chat with JW, and he's a get on zero guy.
Yeah, shout out JW.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Well, I know he's also in some beef. I don't know. You got to be careful with your alliances on crypto Twitter because everyone gets so upset. But I know JW's included me in a group chat, and he's a get on zero guy, and I think he's hilarious. I think he's great. What do I think is the death of shitcoins? I do think that they're going to go after what is, to me, a security. Talking about my family this whole fucking podcast, my stepmom was sitting next to Vitalik when he started pre-selling ETH. She literally, she's just such the sweetest woman you'll ever meet. She's so kind and motherly. She was like, "Oh, sweetie, yeah, your project is so cute." And she gave him 1 Bitcoin for whatever the fuck the pre-sale ETH, according to Vitalik. Vitalik sets the price of his pre-sale security. But anyway, like my family was there for it. It was very obviously, violating, and they were upfront about it. They were like, "PSA, if anyone asked you, this is not a security." Like they put it all over the web. Swear to God. It's you out of the Wayback Time Machine or all this stuff. You can go look. So I do think the SEC will go after him, but I don't know. I mean, the free market's been doing its thing. The problem with you got me going on here. It goes a rant. The problem with these things, they're not money. They're not trying to be money like Bitcoin. They're technology. If Ethereum was money, it would not change the rules all the time. It would not launch 2.0s. A money needs market confidence. It needs equality, fairness. No one wants a money that's changing all the time, right? I know the distribution of Bitcoin. I know the dilution of the Bitcoin cap table, how the halvings go in sequence. A bad money, the dollar. So all of a sudden during COVID, you had the most dilution ever in the US dollar. Talk about getting fucked. Bitcoin would never do that, right? And Ethereum is the same. If Ethereum wanted to be money, it would say, "Listen, guys, we got to be money. If you got fucked because of a hack or something, I'm sorry, but money's money. Hard money's hard money." They're not doing. They're very upfront about that. So I think I just make the argument that Ethereum's not money. It's technology. The problem with technology is it's highly competitive. Technology gets disrupted all the time.
Right.
You know, MySpace to Facebook. So the problem is someone can come along and create a faster, nimbler shitcoin like Solana.
Yep.
And technology's highly dilutive. Is you've got thousands of crypto technologies. They're not money. You know, I think that they play like they're money so they can sell you a token, but you don't need a token to distribute finance. You could use Bitcoin as the money in distributed finance, but that's for a different time. These things are all technology. They're not actually money. And so I think the free market is starting to figure that out. Is how much is the emergent crypto technology worth? I don't know, but it's highly dilutive because you get more and more tech that specifies in more and more things and does more and more things better. You're not going to have a winner-take-all technology like Ethereum. And then I think you realize it in the price. And the thing starts to trade down against Bitcoin. It starts to get absolutely fucking murdered because money's the real use case of what Satoshi created.
Right.
And value accrues into money. These things get murdered, and then people start to realize they got scammed. Is they're like, wait a second. Ethereum's getting adopted, but the value of the token's going down. Technology go up, token go down. Oh, I got scammed. I want to own the money. And, you know, if you want to invest in Ethereum technology, but Ethereum is technology very clearly. They don't care about the monetary policy. That's why they've changed it. But they act like they're money because they want to sell you a token. So that's the only ethical problem I have is they ride the coattails of Bitcoin. If they came out and said, we're a technology play, and we're going to register this token with the SEC, and the value of the token is just strictly the cash flow our technology, like the shares in Strike, that'd be very different than saying, like, they're so insecure. They're like, well, Bitcoiners call themselves sound money, so we're ultra sound money. Fucking pussies. Sorry, that was maybe you may have bleeped that one out, Scooty, but I think the SEC is going to come after him, but I think the free market's starting to figure it out.
Sounds like imminent death regardless.
Yeah, I mean, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent, so don't plan your life around it. But I open a chart, looks to me like, and by the way, it's like, well, no, it's not Ethereum, it's Solana. It's like, okay, give it a few years, and someone's going to create a new one that's not Solana, it's Nirvana. I was like,
yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's eclipsed gold market cap. Technology and securities are hard. Building Amazon's hard. Building Facebook's hard. Building Twitter's hard. And so, yeah, it's like very, very difficult. And I don't think that there's actually real technology to back it anyway. If you were to say, well,
I was going to say it's supposed to be difficult.
Right.
Building Dylan coin wouldn't be very hard.
Right. If you were to say, well, actually, the Ether token should have never been created because it's not money, and you can use actual money like Bitcoin to power these things. It's distributed tech. So we're going to set the Ether token price to 0. Do you still want to download Ethereum? Probably not. Just use AWS. It's cheaper, better.
Reliable.
Right. So that's the whole reason the SEC would sue these guys in the first place, is because it's just you're not allowed, or you're not supposed to be allowed, to print money and mislead and pay Justin Bieber to convince people it's something it's not. America tries to provide really efficient liquid markets, and that's a threat to the legitimacy and the liquidity and the efficiency of a market. If you and I had to like, you know, spend all day figuring out what was a scam and what was not a scam. So, you know, what regulators try and do, and I'm not, you know, pro or against regulation, I'm just stating facts. What they try to do is provide you a marketplace where you could focus on being a barber, or focus on being an engineer, or focus on being a CEO of a company, so that you don't
protecting against consumer harm.
Yeah, but the humanitarian aspect of it is you're trying to provide humans efficiency. So if you can instead be the best barber ever, you do far more for the world by being the best barber ever than you do trying to understand, like,
being a shitty ass barber trying to figure out what money is.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. At BTC is better. How paranoid should people be with KYC BTC? Is it as major of an issue as some people make it out to be?
I can only speak for myself. I personally don't think so. However, I already see all the people, you fucking bend the knee. I believe
Status cuck.
self-custodied Bitcoin
Mm.
is the best form of any asset you can hold. So, for Strike, if you have a limits issue or whatever, just DM me. I'm happy. We want to make sure that you can get Bitcoin and hold it yourself. And that's always, before I was the founder of Strike, while I'm the founder of Strike, always the case. But the KYC aspect, it's a convenience thing. If I wasn't able to use, a wire in from a bank account or something, and I had to find someone at a meetup and stuff, they're just a higher friction, higher cost for me. So would I, give my personal ID in exchange for that convenience? I think it's worth it for me. I also live my life now out in the public. Jack Mallers is my real name. My first name's not John. It's literally Jack. And so I don't know. That's my personal preference. For someone that says, fuck your exchange, don't ever ask me for my ID ever again, I respect that. I have no problem with that. Me personally, though, I say just as long as you own it yourself, I can't imagine there's much risk if you're comfortable with the ID onboarding or whatever.
Yeah.
Which we don't love either, by the way. Like, rules are rules.
We have to
rules
do
are
it.
rules.
We
I
wouldn't
think
do it if we didn't have to.
and we're one of the only Bitcoin companies that have as many licenses, do things ourselves, and so it is tough if you want to be around forever. One of the things you got to do is follow the rules, or else, I'll close this office and say la vie to you guys, right? I want to provide Bitcoin financial services for the rest of my life. I think it's a great use of my time. And so for now, those are the rules. But I'd just get off the platform.
Yeah. I think non-KYC Bitcoin's like fucking metal, but
I love it. I have non-KYC Bitcoin too.
Right.
But I don't consider
Not anymore.
KYC Bitcoin like a massive risk or whatever. No.
Fair enough. Last question from is it Effie? EFE Bitcoin? Effie? We're calling him Effie. At Effie Bitcoin asks 3 questions, but we're going to focus on one. Which G8 country do you think will adopt Bitcoin first, and why? Are there any signs?
Oh, man. I hope America. Is that a sufficient answer?
Yeah.
I think signs. I think I've explained this. I think the American empire is coming to an end, which is okay. We just talked about it this whole podcast. There's boom and bust cycles. You're never going to be like in a euphoric bull market forever. America had a point where we won World War II or whatever. World War II went the way it went, and we needed to bail the rest of the world out because we were way healthier than everybody else. And I think that time is over. Everyone's now producing things. Everyone's economies are back on their feet. And I think we need to humbly retreat back into find ourselves again. Like, why were we created? Why is this the land of the free, the home of the brave? Why do people want to immigrate here? What is the American dream, and how do we support that? And I think you end up finding yourself in Bitcoin. My fear as an American is that, there's too many promises that have been built up over the years that every politician is incentivized to just kick the can a little bit further down the road, and then there's going to be a really painful collapse. But I think, there's nothing more American than Bitcoin. And so I think the founding fathers of this country would have adopted Bitcoin immediately, long before the Fed was founded, long before we left the gold standard. They would have took Bitcoin and thought it was a way more American version of gold because it was far more innovative, far more inclusive, far more free, far more efficient, far more all of the things that America prided itself on. So, in a wild twist and turn of events, that's what I would love to see. And I don't think it's impossible, but it does imply that some politician is going to come out and say, like, listen, it's time to get back to our roots a little bit. We don't need to, like, kick everyone's ass and, like, be the best and the greatest and all that stuff. Like, we're really glad that the world got back on their feet and we're all in a place of, production and global trade. And let's not fight and go to war with each other. Let's celebrate the fact that on the other side of World War II, we're now one greater world together. And to then lead humanity in the direction Americans think it should go, we're going to get on a Bitcoin standard. If I were running for president, that would be my campaign. So, yeah, maybe the new
Mallers
administration...
2040.
Yeah, maybe the new administration takes that position eventually. And there's also, like, geopolitical stuff that very much can play a part. Like, maybe it comes a point of national security of, like, you need to be contributing hash power and you need to have some reserve of coins just in case. Like, that could happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my take is that or at least my hope is that it's the United States. If I had to, gun to my head, push all my chips in on a GA country, it'd be Russia.
Yep.
And then why? Because we fucking kicked them off the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we'll talk about this on the next one,
Yeah.
Putin's take on the dollar. But yeah, I mean, a more practical gambling man's answer.
It's Russia.
But I don't know. It's a speculator's game.
Yeah, of course.
And like I said before, I actually don't know if Bitcoin has the skeleton to support that yet. I don't know. Like, if Russia and then China and then America all adopted Bitcoin, I mean, the market cap. And I'm not sure. And so maybe they are adopting it without telling people because they, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I took a different answer than you. Yes, Russia is probably more practically because they just got their ass sanctioned and they need permissionless hard money. But I'm very hopeful that America looks in the mirror and realizes, we are who we are because of our principles, not because of, who the world needed us to be after World War II. And that journey will lead us to Bitcoin. I think so.
Yeah, maybe we double click on this more in the next episode. That was a great question. And yeah, I think you said it best. I love America. I always will. I was born here. I live here. I'll die here. God willing. So, I think that does it for this episode.
I know. I think, are we keeping in the from spreads to fees piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to end it, always feedback, comments, questions. Like, you guys want my mouth closer to the mic? I'm looking like Sam Bankman-Fried, all that shit. You're never going to hurt my feelings. I've been doing this long enough. I love it. It's the way we get better. Give us criticisms, give us feedback, and then obviously, most importantly, give us questions so that we know what to talk about. We love having this conversation with you guys. And on the strike piece, huge release from us. Fuck the spreads. May they be dead forever. We're happy to give you guys fees now and cheaper fees the more you Bitcoin. So you'll see how it's priced. It's really incredible. If you have any problem, if you have any feedback, if you need help with your limits, just DM me because you're going to see a lot from us. So we got this one this week. Next week, we got a new region for Strike. So there's Strike America right now. We're about to launch Strike Blank. So that's going to be launched. And then after that is our new limit system where I won't need to help you with your limits manually. So we're going boom, 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 boom. As we give you guys all this amazing shit, if you ever need anything, one of the great parts about Strike is we're Bitcoiners. I'm the CEO. You can always just hit me up, and we're here to help. There's not 5,000 employees in the public markets and all sorts of different products we need to support. We're just here to help you guys. We're a financial Bitcoin company that's just here to provide you financial services. So hopefully you like it, and if you have any issues, just let us know. Okay. See you next week and in the comments.